Every day I pray that UEFA does the right thing and decides to not televise the Super Cup final. There will be young children watching. Alright, so I was wrong. Spurs still lost, but I was wrong. Tottenham Hotspur surprised a lot of people with how they performed against PSG in the Super Cup. The result was expected, but how it played out, that was really something. So much so that I think Spurs fans should be cautiously optimistic for the future. Like Basuma, PSG arrived late to the party and showed us all why they are European champions. The season is here, boys. My depression, it's cured. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well, welcome back. PSG have just picked up their 5th trophy of the year, and I believe they've also been participants in every single final that's been available to them as a club in this year, which is just an unbelievable achievement. But this trophy was actually quite important to them for some reasons. They became the first French club to win it, despite the fact that they've only been training for reportedly about 6 days. They of course made it all the way to the Club World Cup final, and I would guess in 2025 it's them and Chelsea who've played the most games out of any team in Europe. And then on top of this, there's all the controversy that's been going on with Gianluigi Donnarumma, PSG's former number one, I guess at this point, dropped for the Super Cup final for Lucas Chevalier. But apart from that, the squad is more or less completely unchanged from their treble-winning side. Tottenham Hotspur have officially entered a new era under new coach Thomas Frank. The former Brentford coach making his competitive debut has quite a lot to prove, but has been dealt, I would say, a pretty good hand in terms of the state that Spurs are in, the competitions they're in, and their seemingly enthusiastic approach to strengthening the squad. Going into this game, they were missing Kulusevski. James Maddison picked up an injury during preseason, which is just extremely unlucky for him. They missed out on Morgan earlier in the transfer window. They haven't replaced Heung-min Son yet, so there's a lot of work to be done still. Regardless, if you came into this match with no context of either of these teams and the environments that they're operating in, where they finished last season and how they performed, you wouldn't really be able to tell which one was the favorite and which one wasn't for about 80 minutes. I must say Tottenham Hotspur's press was much more controlled. The players seemed a lot more comfortable in reading and interpreting spaces. Now, I don't want to take too much away from Ange Postecoglou. We saw him adopt this kind of pragmatic approach towards the end of the season, particularly in the final of the Europa League and the semi-final. So this isn't really something new that these Spurs players are having to adapt to for the first time, this pragmatic approach to games against teams that are a lot more superior to them. But it's good to know that Thomas Frank is starting his Spurs career in this vein and showing us that he's not afraid to approach games like this. Obviously, coming from Brentford, this shouldn't be too surprising to most people. That 3 at the back with Romero, Van de Ven and Danso really compressed the middle and denied PSG from getting into any sort of central rhythm. As we've already acknowledged, PSG didn't have that much time to prepare. Their legs did seem a little bit heavy, their pressing was a little bit slow, but full credit to Spurs, their wing-backs were doing incredibly well to stop PSG's wide players, which is their real heartbeat in attack, from doing anything. Jed Spence made Kvaratskhelia and Hakimi more or less invisible for large periods of the game. Porro was also doing quite well, although Bradley Barcola made a couple of breaks down the left-hand side in the first 22 minutes or so, and I thought that PSG were going to exploit that a little bit more going forward, but we didn't actually see that happening. However, the player that surprised me most, and was undoubtedly my player of the first half at least, was Mohamed Kudus. The man was just extremely physical, often recovering the ball after it looked like he lost it, but then he would just go on to retain, release, and then get into some space. Really, really good signing for Spurs. They should be proud of that one. But I will say that if you're after loyalty, I don't know if he's your guy.
I'm gonna listen to your heart, okay?
You find Spurs there.
Mind you, this was recorded days after he was signed from West Ham. And then we saw another feature that I'm more than sure is going to pop off for Spurs as the season progresses, their set-piece routines. We saw Kevin Danso launching long throw-ins into the box throughout the entire game. The first goal came from an early breakthrough, courtesy of a deep free kick by Vicario, caused a bit of chaos in the box, and when the ball came loose, Mickey van der Ven pounced to make it 1-0. And this goal did not come against the run of play at all. Very deserved. Again, without historical context, you'd think Spurs were the better side. PSG were very off their game, with Richarlison and Kudus almost combining to make it 2 right before halftime. But that second goal did eventually come, and it only took a few minutes after halftime for it to come. And surprise, surprise, It came from a set piece, another free kick. The free kick comes in from Porro, and Romero finds himself in an ungodly amount of space. And we can see a common trend here that's developed between these two goals. We see that a common feature, at least against PSG, was that the ball goes long, and Romero both times trails off and either knocks it back or goes for goal himself. No doubt this was intentional. Perhaps Spurs realized that Kvaratskhelia, Hakimi, all those PSG players on the right-hand side aren't exactly all that well known for their aerial abilities. Seriously, over the course of the season, I expect Jover levels of camera cuts to whoever Tottenham Hotspur's set-piece coach is. It's clearly something they've been working on quite a lot. And from then on, 2-0 up against the European champions after 48 minutes played, Spurs decided they're not going to try go forward anymore. And actually, I kind of rate it. PSG realized that they were in a bit of a precarious situation too, because Spurs were sitting back, PSG were trying to go forward, they were pretty much just occupying the final third of Spurs half the entire time, but they had to be cautious themselves too, because Spurs had shown just how good of a counter-attacking side they'd been throughout the entire game. So it was a really good game of, back and forth for about 30 minutes there. But what truly made the difference and shifted the game to the other side were the subs. And it shows you just how far PSG are when it comes to just overall squad depth. They were able to bring on Fabio Ruiz, Gonçalo Ramos, and Lee Kang-in, all three of which contributed immensely to what would be a really memorable comeback for them. Spurs, on the other hand, brought in Archie Gray, Dominic Solanke, and Mathys Tel, none of whom made all that much of an impact. But the subs did need to be made. You could see that the fitness levels for those Spurs players were waning quite a lot, and there was a lot of intervention that needed to happen. Ousmane Dembele, the Ballon d'Or favorite, was getting dispossessed all game long, but suddenly sprang into life when he had a centre forward to target. He was just spraying crosses and left, right, and centre as PSG slowly ground Spurs down in the final minutes, to the point where with the entire Spurs team in their box, Lee Kang-in was able to fire a shot from the edge to make it 2-1. And right before the final whistle, somehow Dembele managed to sneak a ball in right behind the defense, right for Ramos to make it 2-2. And I think from then on, we all knew what was about to happen. Even though the penalty shootout did have its twists and turns, I'm always happy when players do that slow walk up and miss. In fact, I think Vitinha did the exact same thing in the Champions League last season, and obviously won that game as he did this one. He keeps getting away with it. And then of course Mathys Tel, who had one of the worst cameo appearances of any sub, misses his penalty after doing that slow stutter run up, that Lewandowski style penalty. The worst part about it is that it actually worked in fooling the goalkeeper. He just fooled himself too. If you're one of those people that forced Tottenham Hotspur to put out a statement condemning racism on Mathys Tel, this game is not for you, brother. And I'm also quite curious as to why you decided to support a team from North London in the first place. But yeah, I mean, to wrap this one up, this game was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. It sets a precedent for the rest of the season, I think, and we're fully underway here. PSG, everyone knew they were going to win. I think there's no surprises there. They are just going to get better and better as the season progresses. We know they have a super team and all that, so good for them. Tottenham Hotspur though, I think that there is a lot to work with here. And I would be really excited if I were a Spurs fan. Also because I do think that they're going to really be pushing to get in some extra reinforcement towards the end of the transfer window. So there's a lot to be hopeful for. I, for one, am ready for the weekend. I'm ready for United to disappoint me again. I think that this is the season that we go all the way. 6th place. Anyway, that's all for me today. If you haven't, be sure to check out the podcast. Next week, we'll be doing something on, I think it's Man United or Spurs. I'm not sure which one is coming out, but it's going to be a big one. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.